It is 5:30.
It's 5:30. Let me recording, join the room. Let me. Yeah, I can't see people, but I think, can somebody confirm that you can hear us, please?
Yes, it's Carol Osterink and I can hear you.
Thank you, Carol.
Terrific. Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Gary Fernhagen, and I'm calling to order the Public Works Board, April 3rd, 2025. It's 5:30. Can we have a roll call?
Tyler Kreutzmann. Justin Weaver.
And with us is Ryan Locke, our project manager, and Gary Fernhagen. First is reviewing of the minutes of our March meeting. Is everyone has access to the minutes?
Yes.
Tyler, do you have the
I don't
minutes?
believe so. I just been taking my own.
I'm sorry,
You
taking your own.
Yeah.
These are within a larger committee report that's presented to the council. And what I need to do is cull it out and then distribute it to everyone so we have it, so we can review these notes as well. Okay, so let's start with the review of the minutes. There's nothing outstanding here, but we're moving on. So as we move forward, we'll get into it more if needed. Ryan, could you give us a report from project manager standpoint?
Certainly. So I guess I'll start with the assessments. We've kind of finished most of that up. Actually, Justin today and I had a conversation. Someone came into City Hall and asked about what the fee would be for their property. So we were actually able to give a test, and we're working on a couple of challenges that we found on the way that this formulas were set up. But I think we've tested it today, and we've come to find that it works and it's accurate to what is listed in the assessment. I think that matches what was sent out in the mailing. So again, if someone had a question, they can certainly come to Justin or someone here in the city. We could likely look it up very quickly if it was a question. So it seems to be working. We still haven't received anything from the county yet on the exemption list, but once we have that, we can add that in as well. Otherwise, I think the Excel sheet itself is good to go. So then we'll go into the other part of what we've been working on at Crawford and Associates, and that's the bid specifications for the intersection curb ramps following the Department of Justice's guidelines or guidance areas, which really revolve around public buildings and city-owned properties such as the libraries, City Hall, EMB, some of those buildings, Oakdale. So we prepared a number of sketches that we circulated to the Public Works Board members, outlining kind of where the work was going to be and for each one of the areas. We had a meeting with Tyler, Justin, and myself and walked pretty much all the areas that we were looking at for work areas, talked about a few things. We've had some follow-up correspondence with Rob Perry, kind of outlining how things are going to work for the city and the construction side of things. So we have prepared a contract specifications that we would use for a typical municipality. That will be available for bidding as soon as next week, as long as the Public Works Board would like to continue with that tab. I'm just going to go over a few dates so that we can all understand the the future of the project. So the goal would be that next week we would, open for bidding, or let for bidding is the term. And from that point on, Crawford and Associates would manage any of the bid documents. So if a prospective bidder would like to receive documents, we can give them paper. We like to use digital, just a Dropbox. And it can circulate all the documents. We post everything to this Dropbox so that, there's not an email that someone didn't get or something like that. Through the process, there'll be a pre-bid meeting that Justin and I have set up today at City Hall. And with that, there'll be an addendum from that, which will just discuss any questions that a contractor or prospective bidder may have. And we'll outline all that. The goal is to have bids received by the end of April. The first month or last Monday of the month. The goal is to then be able to reconvene at the first meeting of the month for the Public Works Board. And at that point, the Public Works Board could then make a recommendation to the Common Council for their next meeting and keep the process going. So by the May period, we'll say there'd be a contract that could be awarded to a contractor. I'll touch on the bid setup. We've continued the idea of doing a base project, which is right now 4 intersections. It's the work on Fifth Street as well as Warren and City Hall Place. We felt that that would be a good base project. And then the work on 6th and 7th, each one of those project areas and intersections will be an add alternate to the contract. The city has a finite amount of money. We understand that. So the goal is to be able to have a project that we know we can complete. And then as we receive the prices for the alternates, as a group, or we can, you can evaluate the price of an intersection to see if it's worth expending those funds now, or if you don't have enough money, you could pick and choose between what you get for pricing. I think a big help with that would be Tyler and the DPW kind of putting some eyes on the costs and maybe giving some of their opinions if the work's worth doing now, or something to hold off for and maybe reevaluate for another time. And then the goal would be to begin construction in the summer period. Hopefully we get to the rain. And one of the things we did add in the contract documents that's been a big conversation piece through the small RFPs we've done is regarding the contractor's responsibility to quality control, meaning that, they're responsible for the concrete curing and the final finish of the concrete, trying to prevent the vandalism and things like that can happen with concrete in a city area. So we added some specific notes to that in the documents. And that's pretty much it. I think if there's any questions that I can go over in more detail, I do have, a section of our contract here. It's 400 and something pages with all the technical documents. So I just brought some of the non-technical sections. If for some reason someone would like to look at it, we can kind of go over it, or it's been blessed by a number of people. So the language is pretty boilerplate. We just modify it for each project specifically. But there are performance bonds and other things in this project that protects the municipality, which is the city, for performance as well as material and things like that. So variances and things like that.
Just got a couple of questions.
Sure.
So we're looking to open the bids in May at this meeting, is what we're thinking?
So the bids are gonna be open, they're due the 20. They're the last Monday, the 28th. The 28th, bids will be due.
Okay.
Be read aloud thereafter. So bids will be received here at City Hall, and then
April 28th, okay.
I think at 1 p.m.
Pre-bid meeting?
So the pre-bid meeting we have right now is it's scheduled as, and this is gonna be changed. Let's see here, the 16th, is if I remember correctly, yes, the 16th at 11 a.m. here. Sometimes there's times when the contractors want to go and walk around and look at things, so they
Yeah.
may start here and end up
Yeah.
as a walk around as well, so.
Okay.
Thank you. As Ryan's pointed out, let's be clear, all in favor of Crawford and Associates as our project manager to move forward with this next phase and completing the bid package and sending it out. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So we have a quorum and that passes. Okay, terrific. Thank you, Ryan. Please stay with us because there's some further discussion, I think. Justin, would you like to give us an update on the ADA work?
Yes, so, Louise, resumed work on March 17th. That is specifically the work that's happening, as part of the final, leg of the Hudson Streetscapes component of the DRI project. That started on March 17th. The remaining work that will be done until, they're thinking by the end of May, they'll be done with everything. But the final contract actually ends, they have until the end of June, but they're thinking, but we know how that works. When they give a time frame, it's a little bit, a couple weeks, give or take. They still have milling and paving to do at Front Street at the intersections of First and Second in Warren, with Warren. Roadway striping and signage, construction of raised intersection at Front and Warren Street. Placing granite sets within the maintenance strip, erecting streetlights, installing light fixtures, pulling conductors, wire fixtures, all the plantings, site furnishings, and other landscape type work. Like I said, they mobilized on 317, on 324 curb and sidewalk on Front Street and Second and Warren. Was done, started to be worked on. Streetlights to be erected in early April and wired in mid-April. The raised intersection at Front and Warren is to begin early April. And the handrail for the Allen Cross Street stairs will be put into place mid-April. The granite sets will begin to be placed in early May, milling and paving mid to late May, and site furnishings and landscaping to begin late May. That is the ADA report.
That's exciting, thank you. Noticed, something that I'd like your opinions on. Front Street in particular is much narrower than
Yes.
it used to be. Okay, and at first I said, this is wrong. You know, people are gonna get into car accidents. But then I realized what we're doing is we're putting more emphasis on the pedestrian.
Correct.
And that's wonderful. But, and I'm sure people have done this in other cities. I mean, I'm worried about myself running into one of those bump outs. You know, because you just,
A lot of people, I think, are right with you. I've had a couple of people ask me the same thing, is that too narrow?
It forces the driver to slow down.
Yep.
Okay, that area down there on Front Street, they would have drag races at one point. I mean, the road was so wide. There's no actual lines on Front Street, you know, where you have to stay on this side. You just have to drive, you know, respectfully, following the speed limit, but they never did that. Now they're forced to, and yeah, it's gonna take time for people to get used to it. Once you approach one of those corners where the bump outs are, you're forced to slow down. You're not gonna whip around that corner.
Yep.
You actually, or else you're gonna go over the bump out and you're gonna tip over.
Right.
So it was, I think the whole engineering of it and the architecture and the design was with that in mind, to slow down the traffic there and to be conscious of making it more pedestrian friendly, make this more of a walkable city, you know, with raising the plaza there at the Promenade Park, right there on Front and Warren. It's gonna be filled with people, the way that it's designed. I know I pulled up one of those images before with the design.
Mhm.
You know, all of that's in mind, and I think it's brilliant. I mean.
Yeah, I think once the, all the planting and everything is done with the benches and stuff, then it becomes, whole picture.
Mhm.
And now with, all the locals that know what it used to look like, it's a big change for them.
Mhm.
But someone who's never driven down that street and once this is done, it's not gonna, they wouldn't know any different. So I think that you kind of gotta look at it both ways.
I see what you're saying.
Alright.
Yeah, I mean, the one complication really, I mean, I think it would be perfectly fine if there weren't trucks on that road. you know? You know, and as much as we're trying to get the trucks off of the road, it makes it tough on Front Street.
Oh, yeah, especially if they take a wrong turn.
Yeah. Thank you, Justin. Yep. So let's just, pause for a moment and take a look at where we stand. We got the mailer out. I've heard of complaints already regarding that we're just giving them a month. You know, so be it. 2 months they take, you know,
But that's the charter. The charter set those dates, right?
that's exactly right. Thank you for, backing me on that one.
You're
You know,
welcome.
'cause I was going out, I don't know where I was going. We mentioned in our procedures a form, which have you created I was going to.
Yeah, I have
Still-
that highlighted, yeah, in the minutes would.
Right, I was going to do it and I dropped that. So I'll get that done. It's a simple enough thing. And I'll get it to you right away with the PDF so we can get it up there. And we have the procedure in place for processing the claims and Tyler, you're good with that?
Yep. And if we end up, you know, having to bring in Rob and Craig and everyone else, then that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, cool. And, so yeah, I think we'll start to receive these via email and walk-ins and,
Sure.
and from our app maybe, hopefully. And we'll start working on it.
Sure.
What's going to be, so let's walk it. So I send in my information regarding, a claim for credits for work done in the past.
Hmm.
I'm gonna send it into the email. Okay, now, who's monitoring the email?
Well, that's in my notes here because we're already getting emails sent to that sidewalks@cityofhudson.org address. So I want to make sure everybody is looking at that email address and not just me. Because and I think it should be stated here because it wasn't stated specifically. We could only get so much information on that mailer, you know, and that's part of the problem. That, you know, I've had people coming in all day long, coming into the office, calling. There's only so much that we could fit on one sheet of paper. And I think that's important to know that we could only send this out in the water bill if we promised to keep it to one page. We had to get it all on one page.
You know, more importantly, what is it that people are looking for?
Yeah, so I mean, I have a variety of questions but I just want to make it clear to anybody that's watching this or that does watch this, that is listening right now. That sidewalks email address is not only to just submit proof of past work.
Right.
You can submit your questions as well. And we will print off the questions and we will discuss it. So yeah, I don't know if we want to go through the questions that were received today, but going forward, we can do that. I know that we can't discuss in an email without, if it pertains to making some sort of decision, because it would create a quorum, right? If it's a group email, if I'm.
Well,
Correct.
the quorum only comes into play when we have to vote on something. And if you're informing us, that's a different story. Okay, and I'd like to get it that way. But stepping back, everyone monitoring an email pretty much means nobody is monitoring.
Well, you don't have to worry about that with me, because I monitor everything.
So, I mean, and, you know, and I'm not saying that you should, but we should have one person who it's their responsibility to review that. Do you want to take that on, or Tyler? I'll take it on if, you know, I'm not looking to shirk it, but yes, you're right. I want to look at it. We all should be, but one person needs to be, because then that takes off. If it's not you, for an example, then Justin has to notify you.
I mean, I can do that. That's fine.
I actually think Gary should, right? And then delegate it as the chair. Because if it's something ADA, then you can, I don't know, I mean, what do you think? If
I
it's,
see what you're saying.
right, you know what I mean? It's, as the chair, you should probably monitor that.
How do you feel about that, Justin?
Delegate the ADA stuff to Justin.
I think we accomplished the same thing by Justin looking at it, but I'm happy to do it.
I mean, either way. I mean,
How many emails are gonna be?
I'm
I'm,
sorry?
How many emails are gonna be?
Well, I mean, everybody just got the mailer today, and for the very first time, people are accessing that sidewalks email account. That was,
What did you get today?
I mean, only 3, but that's 3 today.
Right.
And I think
Like
it's,
30 tomorrow.
Okay, if you don't mind, I'd like to monitor it for the time being.
Sure.
Okay, so I get a real sense of
If it
what's
gets to
going on.
become
And to
overload.
your point,
Yeah.
I'm not worried about overload. It'll give me a sense. Maybe it's best me to do it, maybe someone else, but I'll start off. I want to get a sense of it.
Good.
Okay, so. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, for instance, you said like what kind of things, so that, I'm not gonna name who sent this, but this was a question today. We had our sidewalks installed in 2018 where there were previously no sidewalks at all. I no longer have any receipts for the work done. Do you require photographs to show that the work was carried out and that they exist? So they're basically saying that, no, what do we say in that case? I
You
mean,
can do an affidavit.
do we need before and after photos? Should they just submit their, it's like, you know, not everybody's gonna have all the information to submit.
And I think we discussed that, right? And what we'll take is whatever they have, okay, and then we will be reasonable. I'm not even sure if we need an affidavit, maybe, you know, but, we can see that it's been done in the last few years and, you know.
Yeah, we're not out to make things harder. We
No.
wanna work with everybody. I think we're gonna be very lenient.
We've been very clear about
Yeah.
that.
Especially as this is just in its early stage,
Mhm.
you know?
That's right. Okay, so I get it. And I'm not too concerned with ADA stuff because that's, you know, and so it's a sidewalk, it's a claim for exemption. I send it to you.
Yep.
Okay. And then what do you do with it?
Well, review it obviously, and then if I have questions or doubts, then we can bring it to this meeting. And then from there, if we still have questions or doubts, then we can bring in Robert Crane.
Okay, or deal with the owner and sort it out.
Yeah.
So now you review it and it's valid.
Yep.
They have enough information. We don't have to, you know, it's pretty straightforward.
Sidewalks look like they've been repaired.
And we know the amount of money,
Yep.
et cetera.
Yep.
So now the formula calls for, per year, 1/10 of that.
Okay.
And we have to get that information to Ron.
Correct.
And we want to document this, obviously.
Yeah, so the way that I would look at that, it can be CNA, it can also be someone at the city. The thought would be, there's a time period, it's like 10 years, and then there's a percentage for that 10 years to a maximum of $15 per square foot. So, you know, we can, you know, we have this large Excel file, you know, we can make a column for past work time. And then once 10 years is up, they no longer get the credit. Then also 10% of their value for that period as well. We can create that in an Excel sheet. It just is gonna have to be updated every year or every time a claim is made. I don't know how many times, you know, in 2 years from now, is someone gonna be doing it on sidewalk work, or are they just gonna be paying fees? But it may be for the first few years, there may be a number of edits and revisions and updates that someone should definitely be mindful of, as well as when that period ends for an exemption. I think, Justin, you said 2018 was the year. So in 2028, they no longer receive an exemption. Or 2029, I guess, is the year they would no longer receive that credit, I guess is the better way, that exemption. So someone just has to track that as well and make sure that those things are updated and that the numbers do change and that the people know they're gonna get a bill again in 3 or 4 years, so.
So just a question, as I'm trying to follow that. So if someone did their sidewalk in 2020, they're 10 years to 2020? Or does it still stop at 2028?
No, it'd be 10 years from when they did their work,
Correct, okay.
so it'd be 2030 for them. That's why I was saying, like, somehow we're
So
gonna,
every year, there's gonna be people coming off.
yes.
And for the next year or two, people may be coming in.
Right, correct, until they're sidewalk. Okay. So maybe a color code chart where the, you know, And that's.
So we have lots of colors. in our-
Yes, that's in a phase, Ryan, at all,
I'm
yeah?
just thinking at a glance, if someone did theirs in 2018, they're a certain color, so that we knew in 2028, that color came off or.
And we can set that cell up in the Excel sheet
Right.
for a year, and then once it hits 10 years, it no longer tracks.
Mm-hmm.
So just, there's other pieces that, we just wanna be mindful of as, other work being done and there's other businesses in the area, I'm sure, that may do their sidewalks because it'll probably be a savings. So I can see some of the commercial properties doing sidewalk work because there could be a savings for them. But a single family residence or something like that is probably.
Mhm. I think all of this data needs to remain in one repository, and that's your spreadsheet. So, think about how you would like the information flowing from the city to, be able to, calculate and, calculate the deduction, the credits.
The other piece of that, just thinking about is, I don't think there's many parcels that are created in the city anymore. There's not many subdivisions, but in the event someone does change a business or a use, every year, say you have a house that is now converted into a multiple unit rental or something like that, that now changes from the standard deduction to a commercial use. So it's gonna be almost like a yearly, for lack of better words, refresh of this Excel sheet as well. So maybe that now is the time, but at some point there should be we have to, every year at some point, ask the county for an updated, property list as well, because that's how we started our Excel sheet with the county properties. So yeah, that'll be something we should definitely keep in mind for the next years and things like that.
That's something we're gonna have to build in. That, and you're thinking that it would be best to just get a refresh annually versus trying to build in some process that we capture these changes as they happen?
I think that may be easier to make sure we don't miss one. The same thing would be like the firefighter exemption or the veteran exemptions.
Right.
Every year, we would probably, the city should probably get an updated list from the county clerk's office to then upload. So I almost feel like there should be a period that is consistently year to year. And then we just kind of follow through that so that there's a known time period.
Right, and I think that date for that annual overlook should probably be somewhere where it gives us enough time to determine the dates for the charter, you know what I mean? The March, April.
Yeah.
May, so maybe the first of the year, something like that.
Yeah. Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, so we'll figure out exactly the format of the information you want. We'll capture that, pass it along. If there's exceptions, we deal with it as such.
Yep.
You get that information, it's in there, it's being calculated. And then I guess that will have to flow on to, whatever assessment is coming across. You're paying X minus this because of the exemption or the credits, whatever it might be.
Yep.
I think that might work.
Yep, and if not, we change.
We'll fine tune it. Okay, that's good. Next steps. What should we be looking at as we move forward? We're gonna step into, this is going to be a project that's underway, the 5th, 6th, and 7th.
Yep.
As you said, through the summertime.
So I think that a good step for the city, I think we kind of hinted at this at one of the last meetings, is one of the next things that someone should definitely, as this group of people, or maybe in general, is focus on, what's the priority for the city as a whole for sidewalks. Now that the property owners are gonna be charged a fee starting next year, I think it'd be important to start to focus on where's the important areas that the city should start to work on for the future. We have been following the mindset of accessibility to public or municipally owned buildings, examples of police station, library, the youth center, city hall, any of those key infrastructure pieces. I mean, there's the post office, the courthouse, there's a lot of those public accessible buildings that I think would be having those ADA accessible as a start. Seems like that might be a good path forward, but again, if there's an area in the city that's very heavily traveled that is needing an ADA improvement, and that may be something that, I don't know if this board has thought about that, or.
That's what I've been thinking about since this has been like the looming thing that we had to figure out, like this math problem and how to charge and, that, I think we jumped a hurdle with that portion of what we're tasked to do. So now the next hurdle in front of us is what he's saying. How do we determine, we've got to figure out some sort of process. I don't know if it means a walkthrough with you guys, maybe myself, but figuring out what makes an area that needs a sidewalk improvement a top priority over something else. Because there's gonna be people that feel like their sidewalks are in equal disrepair as someone else's.
Sure.
And what mechanism do we use to give one a priority over something else? Aside from the municipal, sidewalks. Once we get past the municipal, and we're looking at just regular Joe Schmo
Mhm.
residents who have a bad sidewalk. We have to come up with some sort of process on how we give one sidewalk a priority of attention over another.
Yeah,
I knew you would agree with that.
I think one characteristic would be how dangerous it is.
Right.
So I think that anything that is a potential liability for the homeowner or whoever, I think that you would want to give that a priority.
Yeah, and the danger is in the eye of the property.
well, yes, but no, okay? I can walk you a block away and you'll say, yes, that needs to be repaired,
Well, if
if the sidewalks are,
Yeah, if there's like a level situation where
Yeah.
like that, or juxtaposed to looking at a pothole. That's right in front of someone's house, how do you determine,
It's gonna be.
well, they're both dangerous.
Someone that's just gonna take a look. Not that hard. You just take a look. It's kind of obvious usually.
Yeah, I know, but there's so many sidewalks in the city,
well,
right?
that's it.
We have to come up with, standards, obviously, right? We gotta draw this piece of the policy and figure out, high traffic areas, the worst
They'll take an inventory.
sidewalks.
They'll
Yeah.
take an inventory.
You're gonna have to do some sort of an assessment, yeah.
And part of that, it's hard to explain that to the residents, I'm sure, where if they're on let's use an
Yeah, they're
example.
paying.
If you have a small residential area, maybe 5 or 6 homes that have a section of sidewalk that's in okay condition, but then you have a section of one of your main streets that's very bad, there may be a priority to fixing that for now, in that smaller residential area, may wait a few years. So there's some challenges that I think is gonna come out with that. That's why I think it's important that there's some, like you said, mechanism or
Yep.
characterization of,
Right.
what's the.
And there's so many other things that have to come into play, whether it's gonna be construction coming up on a street or, other projects in the city. I think all these just bullet points need to be written down and then we can justify.
Well, to Lloyd's point, yes, there's gonna need to be an inventory, an initial inventory where we go around and we list every place that needs to, and then you look at the list and you figure out from there.
Yeah, no.
Part of me, and I don't want anybody to get mad, but Warren Street is getting so much attention, I feel bad for the other streets.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That get no attention, and they know that, the city's probably gonna focus on Warren Street first, because that's the highest traffic, and Warren Street gets but Warren Street is getting a lot of attention. Personally, my heart, my love, I would love to focus on the side streets that are always like
But it's
the
not-
forgotten.
I hear you, but you said it. It's the traffic.
It is.
Forget about everything else. It's the traffic. And that's the key factor. Okay, so let's think about this a bit more, and maybe next meeting, we sit down and come up with some bullet points. And, do we want to invite the public to communicate things that they feel, or issues with
Sure.
sidewalks that they feel
Yeah.
we should
course.
focus on?
Absolutely.
I mean, I could even I can do a story and put it on, like a news item, just so it gets attention. I could do a notification on the Hudson Hub that goes out as an actual notification, like this is what the Public Works Board, we know that you all received the mailer, all the information. We invite you to come to our next board meeting. We can do all of that.
Right.
For sure, I think we should.
Sure.
I mean, these are public meetings, but to really call attention at this point, because we really want to hear from them.
You know, and obviously with the early stages of this, you know, there are some sidewalks that are impassable.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Warren Street's passable,
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't
you know,
think
Warren Street is passable. But there are sidewalks and I cannot get Columbia Street out of my head. I mean, you cannot
Well,
walk
that's
that.
the corner up there.
well, that's, it's not fencing together.
Sixth and Columbia, I feel bad for anybody that has to
Skateboard
walk that way. I mean,
Yeah.
we were there. It was like,
You cannot walk down the street.
it should be in the Olympics to
Yeah.
walk down that side of the street.
Yeah.
Well, Rob,
It should be an Olympic sport. It's not funny, but.
Okay,
But hence, we're starting this now.
We're almost at the public comment question part. Almost there, Lloyd.
okay, anybody have any, that's all I have, anybody else?
I think that's all I have as well.
Fantastic. Any questions from the public and Lloyd?
just to come up to speed, because honestly, really haven't been keeping up with this. This is something new, I'm new around here. So this guy's Crawford, right? Crawford Associate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're gonna be like overseeing the maintenance, the ongoing, you know,
He is our project manager
for,
for the SID, which is the Sidewalk
which is
Initiative.
an ongoing project manager, and this is, we could expect to go on for years and years and years and years. Is, or is this still a certain culmination point,
Still to be determined.
which we're not sure.
We're still in the early stages of it.
So we've got the spreadsheet, which you're curating, and I imagine that's your house in the spreadsheet?
It's been provided to the city, but we have the,
The city showing any interest in, you know, examining the spreadsheet?
I mean,
You can ask me that question.
Yes,
Yes, we have.
and you've examined it, because, you know, I'm in debt, so I'd like to look at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, is that available? Is it on the website?
No, this is all deed information. You can go, you can look at it once it's and once it's all completed, you
Fine.
can go onto the county database.
It's the county then.
The county is the ones who provide the tax assessments.
Okay, so this is going to integrate with the tax, the assessments, and then it's going to be paid by the taxpayer, by the county taxpayer.
Correct.
And
Property
then
owner.
come out, so, and then it's gonna go down to the city. So
Yes,
did the city get the whole proceeds from the sidewalk from the county now, or do they take a cut, or?
no cut.
It's funded to the next
So
year.
this is its own discrete fund
Right.
that will be separated out, and it'll be in the control of the city. And the city will be making all the decisions as to, adjudicate which projects to take on.
Correct.
Correct.
Sounds good to me.
Thank you.
And we've estimated what, 425,000?
it's around 400. We're just waiting on the actual, exemptions from the
Right.
county.
Right.
And that, like I said, around 400, I think is the number I think we're gonna be at, so,
400K,
yes. And that would be yearly.
yearly.
Right.
There's a lot of work done with that.
Yes,
Yeah.
We also have to credit back some, again, if half a dozen people come in with prior work, that, slowly the number
Yeah.
goes down.
But at some point, that's gonna taper down. And then what happens? Ongoing project.
yes.
Yeah, it's ongoing maintenance. If 10 years from now, if there is a sidewalk that is in disrepair and non-ADA compliant, the city will fix it.
Mhm. Now, let's say you're perfect. At what point, look, I don't think you'd be perfect.
Well,
Where do you go from there?
Well, I've already had people, there was one person that came in today and said, I have nothing wrong with my sidewalks, why should I have to pay? I said, you use the city sidewalks.
Yeah.
You know, we're all in this together. And who's to say that your perfect sidewalk is not gonna be one of the sidewalks that we deem that needs a curb cut? You know, to make it ADA compliant. There might be work that needs to be done so that we can really stick to the DOJ consent order. So just because something looks perfect, that doesn't mean that you're exempt from this charge. And yeah, they said, well, I had nothing to fix, and I thought I had a choice. I either fix my own sidewalk or have you. Correct, so you're one of those people, you don't have to fix anything, and you don't need the city to fix anything, but you use the city sidewalks. This isn't,
And just as
Penalized.
importantly, 10 years from now, when the sidewalk does need to be repaired,
Right.
the city is responsible for repairing.
Right, and then
That
we'll,
was gonna change the sidewalk.
Yes. Yes.
You know,
another question that I had, since we're, so, well, it's popping in my head. So, one person, I told them that it would be $100. So they were like, well, is that broken out over 12 months, or is it a lump $100 that's added out at the beginning? I said I would imagine that it's just lumped on in the beginning, but I don't really know the answer to that.
It's part of the assessment.
it's part of the assessment, the town.
when you're.
So the does that assessment go out in January to everybody and then it's just one number? I don't know, because I'm not a property owner. I've been renting my whole life, so I don't know how that works.
The way it'll work is, for me, if I have a mortgage, the bank is taking care of that.
So
So,
$100 added on to somebody's, I mean, it's,
it's $100 over 12 months.
okay.
Now, is it, $9 a month? No.
Depends on how you pay your
But
tax.
these are the questions that,
Oh, I.
these are the really fine tuned, like you would never think in a million years, and I can sit here and I can think of every possible question. And what do you know?
Trust me, you'll get another one tomorrow.
Yes, it'll be a brand new one that I never thought of. It's every angle of the question. So good. I just wanted to,
Yeah, and if you're, if there's, you can reject it
yeah,
anytime.
yeah.
So, okay, any questions from the public?
I got an odd thought, you can discard this,
You have an odd thought?
my job, what can I tell you?
Go ahead, Lloyd.
So what if somebody was to do something over and above? And come up with some absurd figure and fix someone else's sidewalk in addition to that perfect sidewalk? Would you then consider some race or some compensation of some sort for such a, outlandish act?
No, Tyler pointed it out, where maximum, the max you can get credit for is $15 a square foot.
15 square foot.
Yeah, so if you pave your sidewalk with gold,
Mhm.
I'll be there tonight.
So what if you go over and above your 50, over and above your, I guess, your rate, you pay, what you pay in? I mean, you don't get a credit.
No,
No, obviously not, you wouldn't do that,
here's
right?
a good example. Someone puts in a heated sidewalk.
Nice,
Very nice,
yeah.
okay? We're not paying for that.
But let's just say somebody fixes their neighbor's sidewalk,
Then you're a good neighbor.
and maybe someone just hates the sidewalk at Sixth and Columbia, and they just out of their good graces, takes that on as a project.
I haven't seen that happen in 49
Okay,
years.
guys.
I told you it was like.
It would be nice.
The point is that we're not gonna pay out money for whoever, it's the property owner
Right.
is going to be taxed or assessed, and
Unless you made it tax deductible, there you go,
there you go.
fair enough, it was maybe the deduction, so.
Okay, any questions,
Any questions
Remotely?
online, anyone? Doesn't look like his hand is up.
hi, Linda?
Linda?
It doesn't come up on my screen anymore. Somebody has to tell me.
Okay, so if that's it, does anybody have anything else? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Sure, adjourn.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye. Thank you. Lloyd, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Lloyd.
Did that to it.
Oh, good.
We are the cool.